Welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got Derick Johnson with Fit with Derick. As we break through mindset, you guys know that's our favorite topic to talk about. We're going to get right into how to start to break the big ideas, really transform our lives and really create energy and focus on those areas where a lot of us are missing. And I'm excited about guys, I haven't been this excited about a podcast in a minute. So it's awesome. Derick, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me, Anthony. It's a pleasure being here.
As we talk about breaking through big ideas and transforming our lives, you've got a couple of really easy ones to start off with. And I think we're going to jump right into the first big way to break through transformational ideas and transforming our lives. Let's get right into some of your practices.
Yeah, for sure. So step one, the first question I have for everyone is, were you wasting your time scrolling this morning? Were you wasting your time scrolling this morning? Looking at the shoes, looking at the Lambos, looking at the ass jiggle, looking at the woman, like whatever it was, did we waste time doing that thing? Because everybody catches themselves, especially as men. So I challenge everybody to see if you can take control of this bad boy, because usually these apps control us. Everyone has a pattern. So if we could identify what the pattern is, the pattern could be TikTok, Instagram, email, notification. Oh shit, 20 minutes went by. What am I doing? Let's get focused. So identify what your pattern is when it comes to the apps that you utilize most frequently. We are all addicted to these things, myself included. Could be a good addiction for business, helping other people, or it could be a bad addiction or a combination of both. But first, eliminate what your pattern is and take control of it. I challenge everyone to be more intentional when they grab their phone. An example is, I'm going to grab my phone and I'm going to text my client. I'm going to grab my phone and I'm going to send out these 3 emails. I'm going to grab my phone and I'm going to make these 4 posts on these 4 social media platforms. Be intentional about what you're going to do before you get sucked into something. And then after the fact, say, oh man, I wasted my time doing this, or what am I doing on this page? How did I even get here? Be hyper intentional. So I challenge everyone to be intentional about what they're doing. Identify the patterns of which apps you utilize most frequently. And after that is create an elimination sheet. Grab a pen and...
So let's go before we get into that elimination sheet. So look, so you're saying before I touch my phone, almost as if I make a list of what I'm going to do before I get on the phone, like almost write it down. I'm going to call these 4 people, Bob, Betty, Bruce. I'm going to call these people and write that down before I pick up the phone.
Yes. Being more intentional to catch yourself. Because everything is on autopilot when we usually grab our phone and we just jump from thing to thing and get interrupted by the notifications. So especially in the morning, be intentional about what you're doing and say, why am I grabbing my phone? Am I setting up my playlist for the gym? Am I posting something positive and empowering? Am I texting my team at work a good quality message? What is the intent of why I'm grabbing this phone and what app am I going to? So if people can begin to catch themselves, they will get their power back, rather than just reacting to every app, every media, whatever their thing is that they consume or look at.
My judgment is that the phone in its addiction, like all addictions, right? It's cunning, baffling, and powerful, but it's also patient in that it talks to me. So I pick up the phone to call Bob, Betty, or Bruce, and all of a sudden a notification pops. Oh, I should go check that, right? That reaction, it actually talks me into it being something important. And what you're saying is it's never that important. No matter what, just do what's on the list, live by the list that you make before you get on, and nothing more than that. Now, there may be times when I want to scroll and check my emails. I want to scroll and check some of my notifications. Hey, may I scroll and do some social media, but plan that out, limit the time, because right now that has become just the opposite. We go on for one idea, then all of a sudden we're doing hours and hours of wasted time, and just seeing how that one idea, just the phone itself, dramatically changes our way of being.
1000%. If they're more intentional about everything, even their downtime. So an example, my girlfriend and I, we have a non-negotiable Friday lunch date. We get there, we're not touching our phone unless we have to text our team. We both manage teams. So we'll message them, make sure everybody's squared away, and then we're there. We're having lunch, we're looking at the water, looking at whatever's there. Usually we don't talk the first 20 minutes because we talk to people all week long. So we just sit there and take in Mother Nature, talk to the staff, or just like stare. After about 20 minutes, we get our food. Then we slowly start to talk about our wins for the week. What was your win this week, personally, professionally? And then from there, we're present and we have a good moment. But I'm bringing up that example because we're hyper intentional about the set day, the set time. I do the same thing with when I have a break. When I have a break, I say, hey, I've been on calls for 6 hours. I'm going to go walk my dog. Then I'm going to go sit by the water. Or if I need a laugh, I just watch mindless YouTube video for 5 minutes, watch a prank video, get a quick laugh, and then get right back to it. Sometimes we have to tap out to tap back in. So that way we don't get burned out and we don't bring that annoying energy from a previous call into the next one and negatively infect anyone. We always want to catch ourselves so we could positively affect others rather than the opposite.
I love that. I've been practicing no phone Sundays, and let me tell you, it's not. I'm not always perfect at it, right? I've done it now for the last 6 Sundays. I've only had 2 perfect Sundays, right, out of 6. And the idea is that I don't touch my phone on Sundays, and it's really, really been. I just notice when I don't do it, I just notice how silly my life is. How I get caught up in it. And today, so one, I have to have an agreement with my wife. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to touch my phone. If people are going to get a hold of me, they're going to have to get a hold of you. If we need to check on something that we need to work on or something she wants me to schedule, I can't do it today. You're going to have to send me an email that I pick up on Monday. And it's taken putting some arrangements in place to make it happen. But the idea of walking around on Sunday completely detached from the phone itself has been such a great practice that now it's moved me into creating more and more structures around how to do the Sundays without a phone.
That's amazing. And just you identifying that and actually doing it is powerful in itself, because most, they just talk about doing that thing. I should do this, I should do that, but your conscience, something guided you to do that thing. So it's amazing that you actually did it and you already got some results from it. And you're like, hey, I was more present with my wife or my kids, or I wasn't in my head, or I wasn't doing the pattern. We've all done the pattern where we think our pocket is vibrating and our phone's not even in our pocket. It's across the room or it's on the table and we're like, what is happening?
The phantom vibration. Isn't that crazy? That phantom vibration. Yeah. It's there. It's that reaction that we have on there. But my judgment is that social media raced to the bottom of our brain stems, and it's really got us addicted to that in that exact way. It's crazy how that phantom vibration happens and takes it on. Let's go back on you. So you were just about to hit on something I think is the key to your program is that elimination list.
Yes. So I challenge everyone to grab a sheet of paper. If they do it now, awesome. If they do it afterwards, but grab a sheet of paper and a pen and write down the question. What can I eliminate that is holding me from the progress I want to make? What can I eliminate that is holding me from the progress that I want to make? And on top of that, is there anything that I could replace these things with that is more positive? So a basic example is what we eat and what we drink. We walk to the kitchen. What is the first thing that individual grabs? Do they grab the spring water? Do they grab the coffee? Do they grab the sweet tea? Whatever their thing is, what are they grabbing? It's usually the smallest things that either track our losses for the day or they track our wins for the day. Everything is just kickstarting your day in an empowering way or a reactive way. So start off with what you consume. You're drinking. What are you eating? Also, what do you look at when you actually grab your phone in the morning once you've done your morning routine? Do you watch the media? Maybe that person needs to eliminate the media. They have zero control of what's happening overseas. We can send our prayers and good energy, but what are we going to do about it? So being hyper intentional about that thing. What can they eliminate with what they're consuming that is not helping them with their morning routine? Besides that, for an individual, it might be intrusive thoughts, negative thinking. They might want to eliminate limiting beliefs. And we're not saying we're getting rid of all of this in one moment. It's just crystal clarity and transparency to ourselves. Because most people, they will say that I'll get to that in January. Holidays coming up, I'm going to push this into the closet under the rug. January 1st, I'm going to get back to it. They've been talking about that for a decade. So don't wait until January 1st. You know deep down what you should and can eliminate. And it's usually something small that has power over you. It might be an app. It might be a bad habit. It might even be a vice. For some, it's drinking. For some, it's drugs. For some, it might be porn. For some, it might be anger. I know growing up, anger was my thing as a teenager, just dealing with a lot of trauma. And I knew I had to control that and be more calm and collected to be a better leader. But on that sheet of paper, really being transparent and non-judgmental. The most important part of this is you're not judging yourself. You're looking at yourself from the inside out as if you're your best friend. Hey, you know what, man? We got to cut this. We got to cut that. Let's replace this with something better. And by the end, that person will begin to have clarity on seeing their list from a neutral standpoint.
It's one of those things that where I sometimes judge that it's difficult for me to see myself, right? I think this is one of those practices. Sometimes if I have a trusted mentor, right? For me, in AA, I have a sponsor, right? I work with Charlie, and he and I sit down and I look at my character defects because I have a hard time seeing them sometimes. The problem is I've justified them, right? I mean, well, I need to do
Yes.
that. If you did this, of course you need that. If you run this, or they're going to take advantage of you. I make up these stories that are such nonsense. Sometimes I believe my own lie, right? And then I'm afraid to put it on the paper. But when I do, when I get bold enough to look at that, or I can engage in a conversation with Charlie or other men that I'm in practice with, right, where we get really vulnerable with each other, and I can go, look, I'm trying to lose weight, but I keep eating bonbons, or I get up in the morning and I have cookies, or every night
Yes.
I stop by the kitchen and I knock down 500 calories of crap. Yeah, that's not going to work. One of the working on is sugar addiction, right? I just realized I couldn't get to losing weight and get my body shame that I've been worried about. I couldn't get to that part if I knew that I was in addiction with sugar, right? Because the cunning, baffling, and powerful of the addiction, I would be sitting on the couch and go, just go upstairs, right? My bedrooms are upstairs. And
Yes.
somehow or another, before I knew it, I'd be in the kitchen and I'd be knocking off 500 calories. My mother-in-law loves to make these amazing Greek cookies, and they send them over. I'm like, oh, I love these cookies. And you knock them with a glass of milk. It's 500 calories. You didn't even blink, right?
Exactly.
And they'd be in my mouth and milk would be dripping down my chin. I'm like, I told myself not to do this. Stop. Now stop. I can't stop. And that's really literally, I don't know. How about you guys? Have you had that same feeling where you're doing something you don't want to do, but literally couldn't stop myself? And it sounds weak, but that's addiction, right? And I couldn't see that until I saw that I was literally addicted. I was like sitting there looking, going, I didn't want to eat the cookies, and I just knocked off, a row of Oreo cookies, and you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm 55. 55-year-old men should not eat cookies ever, or at least Oreo cookies ever, you know?
Yeah. So a big thing that somebody could do if they relate to that scenario is change your physiology. So if they notice that normally before they go upstairs, they go to the kitchen, go in the backyard and just walk around the backyard. Or that person could walk down the street and then they have to go back through the garage, through the front door, wherever they normally go through, and then they head back. But all they're basically doing a detour. So am I doing the detour to get to my room the long way? And you're just interrupting that pattern. For others, it might be he or she needs to do some push-ups in the hallway and then like hype themselves up and say, all right, I caught myself, clap in their face. For some gentlemen, I recommend they just bark. And what I mean by barking, you legitimately bark like a dog, but it's not that you're trying to be alpha male Randy Savage. It's more so a verbal air horn to your mind to say, I need to stop this thing, an instant pattern interrupter. So if somebody's about to go to the kitchen, if they start barking and they like catch themselves, they're snapping themselves out of it. That's all we're doing. So I'm not saying to bark in the restaurant, to bark in the gym and to be that weirdo, but just in general, sometimes we just have to have a pattern interrupter. And that's the equivalent of somebody clapping in their face, blowing an air horn. They're just snapping themselves out of it. And last but not least is if somebody creates a pattern interrupter statement. So an example could be, I'm in control. I have the fucking power. I also recommend to add a cuss word in it if somebody does cuss or not. The reason why, it has more emphasis to it because it gives them a rush and power. So they can create whatever phrase, 2 to 5 words, but any moment that they're about to grab the phone, grab the cookie, order Uber Eats, whatever their thing is that they know they deep down need to take control of, they have to say that powerful statement and change your physiology. If he or she's been sitting for a while, stand up, stretch, shake it out, snap ourselves out of it. If they've been standing for a while, sit down, decompress, do the opposite of the physiology that you were doing most of that time previous, whether it was a few hours or a few minutes. But if they just have a pattern interrupter, say something, move the body, or sit down, breathe and pause. Breathing and pausing catches us in that moment. It sounds very simple and straightforward, but all we're doing is getting our power back to snap out of the autopilot. Everybody does something on autopilot to an extent where we're like, all right, what am I doing? What's going on?
I think that what you're talking about is look, being conscious. Don't underestimate the value of one conscious breath, right? Just now my judgment is in my past right? I'd get off of work, I'd have a couple cocktails, I'd smoke a little pot, I'd sit in front of the TV, and I'd go unconscious. And from
Yeah.
that guy, right, I get the efforts. Fuck it. I can't. It's okay. It's just a cookie, Oh, you don't worry. Why are you giving yourself a heart? You deserve it. You went to the gym this morning. You deserve it, right? That nonsense that will play in my brain when I get the efforts. And it's literally just, it becomes really difficult when I'm drinking or doing drugs, or smoking pot. It became really difficult then to do that. Now, today that I've been sober for a while, practicing both physical sobriety, but that part you talked about was that emotional sobriety, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you were talking about anger, because I can sit in my, look, if my wife somewhere after dinner gets me pissed off, I can eat at her, right? Oh, fuck her, fuck,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I'm eating cookies, and she'll be over there going, I can't believe you're eating cookies. You just talked about how much that, you're, and then she shames me. She's like, I can't believe you're eating cookies. And then I get more deeper into a depression about that. And it sucks. Like that pattern, that whole pattern of living, that then creates shame, and that just doesn't feel great, right? So staying, like you talked about, staying conscious in the moment, right? Taking a deep breath, doing a push-up or a bark, right? Having a statement that says, I'm fucking in control, like taking on that power, like that's a difference. Now I have power from there. When I become powerless is when I've given it into the addiction. And I'm now
Exactly.
sucking down cookies, and the milk's on my chin already. It's too late.
Oh, yeah. Another thing that somebody could do is they could say out loud or in their head just every single morning that they wake up, especially in the moments where they want to hit snooze, they want to lay in bed and scroll, they don't want to do that thing. Tell themselves out loud and in their head that people depend on me. People depend on me. As humans, by design, we're all selfish to an extent because our body can go into survival mode, but we need to tap out of that sometimes because we tend to be too selfish because we don't feel like doing something. But if we think about the people that depend on us, for some, it might be their kids, their pets, the kid that lives down the road that always watches you go on a jog or go for a walk. Somebody in person or online looks up to us and depends on us. So if we could think of those individuals, we can show up better. And it flips the script opposed to going from, I don't feel like doing this Monday morning to people depend on me. What can I do in my morning routine to get me into a powerful state? Because when I walk into the office, get on the Zoom call, go to this restaurant, I'm going to give off some good vibrations and good energy. And people are going to be like, wow, he or she, they carry themselves in a different way. They're making me want to step my game up. So showing up as that person rather than the opposite, because everybody can feel when we had the cookies, scroll too much, hit snooze, didn't get our morning routine in. We're on edge, energy's off, we're kind of pissed off, we're very reactive to everything. And in that day, in that moment, we realize that everything and everyone needs our attention in that moment. We're like, can I just get 10 freaking minutes to myself? But it's
I know.
usually our fault because we didn't prime our morning. So reminding ourselves that people depend on us, no matter what level they are in life, no matter their age, and showing up better. Because I truly believe that we're all here for one reason, and that is to work on ourselves, become the man or woman that we would be proud of, and give that individual to the world. Become the man or woman that we would be proud of and give that individual to the world, because everybody loves a comeback story. So in the moment of the pain, the anxiety, the frustration, the anger, the embarrassment, we just have to say, take a breath, like you said, and be present and remind ourselves that this is part of my comeback story. And I'm going to tell this testimony. It could be about food. It could be about alcohol. It could be about divorce, whatever our thing is, but reminding ourselves of that. You are the main character in your story. You have a comeback story, and somebody needs to hear your story. No matter how dark, light, whatever it is, everybody needs to hear the story. And if somebody thinks nobody cares about my story, the only reason that they watch movies or read books is because of a story. So your story could change somebody's life. So remind yourself that you are the hero in your story, and people depend on us because somebody's always watching. That one post, email, somebody's going to come out of nowhere and say, Anthony, Michelle, Joey, I saw your thing on Facebook. I needed that. Or I saw your email, or I've been watching you for the past couple of years. I'm proud of you. And you're like, what? I didn't even think they had me on social media. And then it just hits you and you're like, wow, I did this for a reason. And it's amazing what happens.
Well, that part that you were talking about, that plan in the morning. I've noticed that Fred, the guy in my head, right? Fred in my head,
Yes.
he gets up before I get out of bed, right? He gets up and he's like, well, today it's a little colder in Chicago. Like this morning, I didn't make it to the gym today, right? And I was like, I got up in the middle of the night and I couldn't sleep and I was tossing and turning. And today, Fred beat me. Right. It doesn't normally beat me. Right. It doesn't normally beat me. Most days, for the rest of this week, I've gotten up, I got my gym shoes on and I made it out the door. But last night I didn't sleep very well. And I noticed myself tossing and turning all night, thinking about all kinds of things that my brain was going through. I had a couple of big meetings first thing in the morning this morning that were going to be difficult, and I was planning them out. And then Fred got me, right? He got me this morning in that I didn't get to my sneakers, right? Because normally in the morning I don't negotiate with Fred. My sneakers are right by my sink. I have a little
Perfect.
stool there that I put my shorts. I brush my teeth. I put a video on, a motivational video. I love Eddie Pinero. I love Eddie, and Eddie goes on and I listen to his while I'm brushing my teeth. And once he starts playing, he's saying positive stuff. There's music and there's a rhythm to his stuff. And Fred shuts up, right? And as I go through, all I have to do is get to my sneakers. If I get the sneakers on and I get out the door, I'm pretty much at the gym, because once I'm at the gym, I feel good, right? It's just
Oh yeah.
getting from my bed to my sneakers and getting out the door. That today, I got beaten, and I can feel that feels a little bit, a little bit much today. I'm like, okay, you missed today. I'm not gonna beat myself up over, but ultimately it cost me in that feeling you were talking about, that feeling of accomplishment that rings through my day, right? That
Exactly.
esteemable act that gives me self-esteem, right? That piece that says, all right, you did good. You made it to the gym. And that's a great way to start the day.
100%. And I truly feel that we all have to earn that confidence by moving our body and opening our mind. So when it comes to a morning routine, I always suggest people do two things: one for the body, one for the mind. And the reason I say two is nowadays we see all these videos on social media. I need to take a cold shower. I need to get in the ice bath. I need to read 5 books in a month. I need to do this. And all that stuff sounds great, but who does it consistently? A lot of people just do it for the clicks and likes and attention. They're not doing it daily. So remind yourself to zoom out and say, a lot of people are extreme about these things. What can I do for my body? Myself, I love to run to the gym, hit the weights. I run home, take my dog out again, and then I just sit after a shower and plan the day. I'm excited. For some, they might just want to go on a walk. Others, they love yoga. So whatever their thing is, one thing for the body, one thing for the mind. For me, it's visualization and prayer. For others, it might be meditation. So if they can choose that thing and stick with it, everything is with the intent to put you in a powerful state where you are in control. And another thing that can really help people when that voice is trying to take over is, if they know their family tree, think of great great grandpa or great great grandmother and think about the hell and the stuff that they faced. And it gives us another perspective. So my example, my mother's German. So my mom's side of the family's in Germany. My Oma survived the Holocaust. So a couple times a year, if I don't feel like doing something and nothing else is working, I think of her hiding in the attic, surviving. And then I think of my dad's side. My dad is African-American. He's from Starkville, Mississippi. He grew up on a farm. I think of my great-great-grandpa and everything he went through in the state of Mississippi. We all know what happens there. So I think of Oma in the attic, great-great-grandpa, extreme challenges, adversities. Then I go to myself. I have air conditioning on, $1,000 phone, girlfriend's laying next to me, the dog's on the floor. Like, what the hell am I complaining about? It gives me chills. I think about the present moment, and then I say, people depend on me. Get up and get to it. I'm not saying somebody has to put themselves in that state daily, but sometimes we just have to remind ourselves that people literally went through hell for us to even be here and be alive. And it's a slap in the face if we can't even get out of the bed or get up on the first alarm. So sometimes we just have to go extreme to humble ourselves, look at all our blessings, look at what we're grateful for, and really flip our perspective to get some chills and say, you know what? I'm overpowering that little voice, whatever it is. And so that's another thing that can definitely help people is I challenge them to learn their family tree on both sides, no matter their relationship with them, whether they're close or not. But I guarantee you there's somebody that went through some wild stuff that we could just say, wow, I appreciate him for not quitting, because that's why I'm here.
Mine's Grace, my mother, right? She she literally paid for my elementary school until I was 18 years old, $25 a month, every month for years. She sent me to she worked at Denny's, and she sent me to a private elementary school that started my life off with really great education and gave me
Awesome.
a great start. And I think about that. Audience, I'd love for you to put that down in the chat. Who was the one that you're fighting for? Whenever I get tired, I think about all the things that my mother did. I can't tell you how many times I woke up in the morning and she'd be sound asleep at a sewing machine. Right. She was at Denny's, worked at Denny's at night. She worked at a place answering phones during the day, and she sewed clothes all night long. And she raised 2 kids by herself. And, every once in a while when I get tired, I think of Grace and her my mother working so hard at that sewing machine. And I'm like, I owe her. Right. Audience, I
Yeah.
want you to put that down below. Who do you owe? Right. Who's in your background that you owe? Put that in there. And let's talk about that, because I think that's a fun one to look at. Having some gratitude for our forefathers that got us this life, even gave us a chance at it. Derick, I think that's a great way to remember. Look, I'm grateful for the life I get to live. Having a little bit of gratitude goes a long way to changing my attitude.
Oh, yeah. Another last perspective on this is a simple reminder, and this goes for everyone, that you're technically undefeated. You're technically undefeated. So if you look at everything that you've been through, that you're currently going through, that you went through 10 years ago, technically we're all here alive and kicking it. We're grateful, but we're technically undefeated, where we have 100 things or 1 million things that we went through. We're still here. So take a deep breath, look in the mirror, and just remind yourself who you are. And sometimes we just have to be our biggest supporter, our biggest cheerleader or pep talker. We're like, you know what? Look in the mirror. I see a badass. He survived this. He survived that. Saw some traumatic things with family. You just got to remind him and say, wow, he's still here. He's still standing, and he's supposed to be here to serve others. And it just gets me excited. Also, just seeing people have that type of energy as well. You're like, I guarantee you they've been through some stuff. The way that they carry themselves, that's why he's good at what he does. That's why she's good at what she does. Once you peel back the layers, it's exciting to learn that we're not that much different from other people. And it makes sense why some people do what they do or are at the level that they are at, because they use that pain as their fuel long term.
That's awesome. Being the positive influence in the group, right? The one that's, pushing everybody up rather than pulling them down. There is a gift to this world. Getting up in the morning and getting myself to a position where I can be that kind of man, right? That's ultimately the guy I want to be, right? I don't want to be this weight on society. I want to help society, right? I want to help my family. I want to help the people I work with, right?
Yes.
I want to be able to prosper in a positive way in life. And I love when you talk about that, getting myself into a state of gratitude, right? And then tuning in, right? Because it takes a little bit for me. It's like tuning in a radio. I got to tune in. You guys remember the old radios with the, or maybe the old TVs with the antenna? I got to tune in to get to positive station sometimes.
Oh, yeah. And in the mornings, that's honestly what we're doing. Some mornings we might wake up, remember a nightmare. If you're like me and been through trauma, you might have sleep paralysis where you wake up and you can't move and stuff happens. And then from there, you're like, hey, I'm still here. So the first thing I actually do in the morning, once I get up, I walk to my kitchen, I drink a cold glass of spring water, and I actually close my eyes. And I just feel the water go down my throat, all the way down to my stomach. I wake up dehydrated every morning. If you can relate, you can feel it all the way in your belly button. But the reason I do this is intentionality and presence. I feel the coldness of the water. I'm relaxed. I hear the kibble in my dog's dog bowl going as she's eating. I'm standing there. I'm breathing. I'm thinking about what muscle group I'm going to train, how many calls I have, whatever's on the agenda. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. Open my eyes. Glass of water's done. And then I say, it's go time, baby. And it just brings me into the present moment rather than thinking of, oh, this bill is due tomorrow. And then I got this. And then the holidays are coming. None of that crosses my mind. I make sure to be intentional and grateful for that first breath and that first glass of water.
That's awesome. Having those winning in the morning, right? Winning that, winning my morning really sets my day off. Now I've got this list right now. Let's go back through that again. Just I want to kind of re-emphasize it. So we create our elimination list, or maybe even our termination list, if you want to be the Terminator, right? Our elimination list, right? Now we started to not negotiate with our mornings, right? Really set up a morning that becomes intentional, that we really deliver on, right?
Yes.
We talked about a mindset of gratitude, right? Kind of tune into some gratitude, right? Now
Exactly.
I've survived my hardest days, or to remember, I've survived my hardest. I mean, so far I'm 100% for surviving every one of my hardest days to date. I love that. Right. And then we got, working on, really creating that. Now let's go to that next stage now. Let's go to that next stage and creating a future that pulls us into it powerfully.
Great question. So I like to look at it as two types of motivation. So there's the push motivation and there's the pull. There's the push and the pull. The push is everything we've been discussing so far. Push ourselves out of bed, push ourselves to the gym, push ourselves to get out of that negative headspace, push the last rep, the last set of the workout, the last run of the mile, push, push, push. That works well. But if somebody really wants to win in life, they have to have a pull, which is the second type of motivation. The pull is when we think of a cause. If we think of family, some would call it legacy. If we think of something that's bigger than us, if somebody does not have a pull, they're going to be pushing their entire life and they will feel like they cannot get to that next level. But the person that has a pull, what actually happens, they less likely have to push themselves because they're literally getting pulled throughout most days. Maybe 3 or 5 times a month, they really have to push themselves out of bed, but 90% of the year, 90% of their day, they're getting pulled by something greater, making a deep impact in someone's life, changing the trajectory of their family tree because alcoholism ran on both sides. Whatever it is at a deep core level, Speaker Les Brown, a quote that always stuck out to me is, your why should make you cry. Your why should make you cry. And it doesn't just mean it has to be sad, but it could also be fearful. Like it's so big, the why and the dream, that it's scary. If it's scary, that's good. It's giving you a rush. It's giving you chills where you're not doubting yourself, but it's almost about to be there. And you're like, that's big enough. Because if it's too small, it's not going to give us a rush. But reminding ourselves that, yes, it's okay to push ourselves, but what can you pinpoint that is going to be your pull? And whatever it is on an emotional level to that person, for each person, it could be slightly different. There's no right or wrong. Whatever's going to give you chills, give you a rush, make you cry, that's going to be your pull. So that's a huge challenge that I have for people is figure out what your pull is. It might be a passion. It might be a cause. Maybe their brother or family member has cerebral palsy and they want to run a marathon and push him or her in the wheelchair, like something bigger. Maybe they lost their buddy in deployment, like all kind of things. Really pinpoint what that is and have that pull rather than just a push. And that's how that individual can win long-term, by thinking of something bigger to say, you know what, today I don't feel like it. Life is happening, but I'm here for a bigger cause because this is going to be part of the testimony.
I love Les Brown. You got to be hungry. You got to.
Oh yeah.
You get up in the morning and you put a Les Brown tape on. You got to be hungry. He will move your soul. He'll light your energy up. If Fred in your head's got you, you put on Les Brown. He will move Fred right over, and he will move you into pulling yourself into that future that's really dynamic. That future that really pulls me forward. Right. I was reading Matthew McConaughey's book. It was the second time I read it. It was that Green Lights book. Future. The guy that I'm going to be in the next 10 years. Right. When I start to look at myself in the future as I continue to grow as a man. And, he talked about, I'm chasing me in the next 10 years, right? I'm chasing the guy I get to be, the guy I'm grooming myself, the work that I'm doing today, right? The work I do in the gym, the work that I do in the office, the work I do in my home, the work I do in my prayer life, the work I do in meditation, the work I do with reading. That's the guy that's grooming that guy that's going to become in the next 10 years. That guy is worth chasing, right? That's the guy that's the why, right? I get to be as malleable as I want. I do not have to be anything I am today. I get to create a future that pulls me into it, that excites me. And I love that. I love when you say that, a future that pulls me forward in a way that emotionally touches me. I can feel that way. I can feel that excitement. And as I release the elimination list, right? Those are the ones that are pulling me backwards. Right. I can get more into creating a future list that pulls me forward. And I love where you're going with that.
I appreciate it. And the whole intent of the eliminate sheet is, number one, the reason that I do it with step one is because it's hard for somebody to add to their routine or to add to the schedule. If they're not in a winning state or an empowered state or have discipline and consistency at their core, Adding anything to it is not going to help at all. He or she might stick to it for 5 days, a week, a little bit here and there. But if they can first get rid of some things, clarity and power, that's what they get. Every time you can have the light bulb go off and say, I didn't grab TikTok this time. I didn't grab the cookies. Hey, you know what? I ate some frozen grapes because my mind thinks I'm eating something sweet because the sugar coagulated and I ate those. That's a trick. If you like grapes, get a bowl of grapes. Put grapes in a bowl, put them in the freezer, and just eat them at night. Your brain will think it's something sweeter. You'll look at them like, is this a grape? Because the sugar, the natural sugar in it coagulates and they're super sweet. So that's a little psychological trick you can do at night. But just in general, all these are small wins. I just aim to help people look at it in the perspective of how many wins can I stack by lunch? How many wins can I stack by lunch? I grabbed the water, didn't scroll, got the workout in, texted my best friend happy birthday, hit every green light on the way to the gym or the office. Like the smallest things, it's all about you and what makes you feel good. Just stack wins all day. Like on my run to the morning, there's a lot of potholes. So I make sure to go around and hit that. And then I look at this and I look at the traffic and I'm just stacking wins. My playlist is on shuffle. I'm like, oh, this one gives me chills. The squat rack is open and I'm like, oh. And then what's happening is that part of your brain called the reticular activating system. Tony Robbins discusses a lot about this, is that is the part of the brain that is looking for more of that thing. It fixates on it. So a prime example, if somebody's never experienced this, is when you were a kid and you're playing punch buggy, you see a Volkswagen car and you start noticing Volkswagens everywhere, those little Beetles. And you're like, damn, I never noticed my city had this many. That is that RAS, the reticular activating system, in your mind automatically searching for it. And you might be in a car and something says, look left, and you look left and you see another one, Range Rover, whatever the car is that you like, but it's happened before on autopilot in a negative way. Your brain does this automatically with negative things, the bill, the traumas, the pain, the embarrassment, the insecurities. It's all there. We don't even have to force ourselves to think about it. It just pops in. So by stacking wins and being hyper aware of them, we're training that portion of the brain to focus on wanting more of the things that you do want. And individuals that have done this for a while, they're not like overly optimistic as in La La Land and just fake optimism. They're more so direct about life that they're so focused on their next thing because the majority of their thoughts are only empowering things. Yes, the trauma, stress, anxiety, it does hit them, but what overrides everything is them being ready for that next win because they've been winning since 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And when something happens at work or with all these apps and programs we use, they say, you know what, challenge accepted. So they're in a proactive state. So what can you do on a daily basis to put you into that proactive state and stack wins? You just want to stack wins all day long. Be excited for the smallest thing. You took the sip of water, awesome. Your favorite song came on, amazing. You made a small sale, hey, you're going to stack another win and you're just going to vibrate higher.
You know, I got to tell you, I love when, you know, we got together and for the moment I got to meet you and the work that you're doing, you know, it's everything I want to do in life, right? It's everything I want to be. It's the work that, you know, really excites me about doing this podcast work and learning from great people like yourself, you know, getting to have coaching from you, you know, audience, if you haven't had a personal coach, or a personal development coach, you know, it's just such a gift to have. And throughout my life, I've been able to have that. And Derick, if you want to be able to get a hold of you and, you know, get hooked with Fit With Derick, you know, what's the best way for them to catch up with you?
Great question. So they could go to fitwithderick.com, Derick, the only correct way to spell Derick, fitwithderick.com. They can go there. And the whole intent is they'll see real people with real results, pictures, videos, and on social media, they could either search my name or Fit With Derick 2, the number 2. And my intent with social media is just to plant seeds, make people think and make them uncomfortable, but in a good way. As in he or she's about to hit snooze and they think of the video they saw and they say, oh, he called me out. Or some people are like, man, this dude wakes up at 4 a.m. I bet tomorrow he's going to miss. And they're like, damn, this motherfucker doesn't stop. So it's like planting that seed where they're like, all right, I need to step my game up. So just full transparency online to show people you can do it all. And life is short. Why not make ourselves better to give back to others? And it does not have to be career. When people see you doing better and you're excited about life, that energy rubs off on them and vice versa. So fitwithderick.com or fitwithderick2 on any social media apps. And that's the way that they can reach me. And last thing I'll say, one of my favorite gentlemen is Andy Frisella. One of my favorite quotes from him is, "I'm not for everyone, neither are you." So sometimes we might not be the best fit for it, but if people love that directness and that bluntness coming from a place of support to give you the power, we might be that for you.
I'm going to put all those links down below. You'll be able to get a hold of Derick through those links, and we're going to go back through and really just make sure that you guys have got. I'll put all the meeting notes down there. Look, really start with creating an elimination list, right? Start to create those patterns. Get rid of the ones that aren't working for you, right? Go back and look at the social media. It's number one, the social media, number one. Listen, stop freaking scrolling. It's a waste of our lives. By the way, I have to say that to myself. I'm saying it to you guys because I, even in the last couple of weeks, have had some extra scrolling I want to get rid of. So yes, get rid of the scrolling. Number two, get rid of all those places that are holding you back in that elimination list, or maybe even termination list, right? Not negotiating in the morning, right? Not negotiating at night, maybe even barking before I go upstairs as that reminder, or maybe a statement. I can fucking do it, right? Getting a place where I've got the power. I got the fucking power. Use a cuss word that shakes you into a way of being. Derick, I think those are. I love that you're bold and you really change people's lives by using bold ideas that, sometimes people want to be so cute and so nice, and you're bold.
Yes.
So guys, get with Derick, get a coach like him to help move your life forward. You remember, you've survived your toughest days. That moment, that getting an emotion of gratitude, a place of gratitude for your forefathers and a life that you get to live, not forgetting that no matter what happens, you got this. And Derick, I just want to tell you, man, you are I'm honored to be here. You're a gift to this planet. You and the work
I
that you're
appreciate
doing,
it, Anthony.
you're changing lives, brother. You are literally changing lives. And these are the kind of people I want to shine light on. And audience, please take a minute. And if you like this podcast, like and subscribe it down below. It means the world to Derick and I. And any of the comments you have, throw it in there down there. And I'll make sure that like we do with every one of you guys, we answer all of them. So thank you as always for listening. Derick, thanks for being here.